Is Mark Shapiro's job in jeopardy if the Blue Jays miss the postseason? Hey everyone, welcome into Long Ball. Rob Wong, joined alongside by Toronto Sun Blue Jays writer Rob Longley. And Rob, the unofficial second half of the season just about to get underway, and all eyes have shifted towards the trade deadline, of course, as the Blue Jays had an extremely disappointing first half. We've talked about manager John Schneider and GM Ross Atkins' job security in the past, but we really haven't talked much about team president Mark Shapiro, who is at the top of all of this. If the Blue Jays do not make the playoffs this year, Rob, do you think Shapiro's job is on the line at all?
I wouldn't think so, Rob. I think that the nature of his position as team president, while he's responsible for everything, off the field and on the field, it seems to me anyway that his main priorities are the off the field stuff, and it's mostly been a success in that role. He's certainly overseen the renovations of the Rogers Center. They've spent almost $400 million on it, and by most accounts, they've done a good job. It certainly is a much more pleasant place to watch a baseball game now than it was 4 or 5 years ago. They've rebuilt the what was one of the worst facilities in spring training for all of Major League Baseball into what is one of the best, and that's an attraction for both current players who look to spend time there and develop and rehab and those sorts of things, and it's an attraction for when you're trying to woo free agents to town. So business wise, things have been good. They're still filling that stadium most nights, or coming close to it anyways, despite a mediocre record. And you would have to think that from Rogers Communications perspective, anyway, that on that side of it, Mark Shapiro has done a good job. Now, will there be some reckoning in terms of, suggestions that you're sort of on the clock and we have to improve the on-field stuff? Potentially, because eventually those the ticket buyers aren't going to continue to fork out that kind of money for a substandard team. And this just in, Rogers also owns Sportsnet, which carries the games. And if ratings were ever to take a serious dive on the network, then that would be something that Shapiro would have to answer to as well. But so far, that hasn't been an issue. And my sense is that ownership would continue to back him for at least the short term.
Yeah, it's going to be quite an interesting offseason, of course, because it feels like the direction of this team could go in many different ways. As I said, the second half of the season gets going on Friday when the Blue Jays return home to host the Detroit Tigers. What are some of the storylines you're going to be keeping an eye on, Rob, in the remaining 66 games?
Well, first of all, I laugh at the suggestion that Blue Jays fans have that things are going to get better in the second half of the season. Well, as you alluded to off the top, Rob, it's the unofficial start of the second half of the season because there's only 66 games remaining. They're actually closer to two-thirds of the way through than halfway through. So obviously, you don't completely write them off yet, but there's only a dozen games or so before the trade deadline, and they basically have to win all of those to turn into not being sellers. So yeah, I think the first and foremost, we look at what happens before the end of July. What is the approach of Mark Shapiro and the baseball operations department? Uh, are they going to be sellers? Are they going to be blow it up sellers? Are they going to be retooling sellers to hope that they can take one more run at it next year with Vlad Guerrero Jr. and Bo Bichette still around? So first and foremost, I think that's the pressing concern. Um, Otherwise, you wonder if Vlad Guerrero Jr. can continue the momentum that he has shown through July. I think, that's he's certainly shown some of the signs that he has earlier in his career. But on field, I think the biggest question is what's going to happen with Bo Bichette. Is he going to continue to be in what is the worst slump of his professional career by far? I mean, he's slumped before, but never more than for a couple of weeks. And this has been a season-long slump for Bo Bichette, and a guy who was seen as a cornerstone of this team. So it's going to be very fascinating to see what happens with him. And then the pitching situation. I mean, we'll see what's left of the bullpen after the trade deadline. We'll see if this starting rotation that was so good last year and has been up and down at best this season, if they could turn it around a little bit. Because if not, and if there are some exits, it could be a really long and lean second half of the season and incredibly frustrating for Blue Jays fans.
Well, it's not necessarily an audition, but some players could be playing for spots to be part of the solution heading into next season here in the final 66 games. As always, leave your thoughts in the comments section below. You can find all of Rob's Blue Jays coverage at the Toronto Sun.